Welcome to Mining Now. I'm your host, Jared Downey. Last episode, we had a replacement host. Rory tried to take my job, but I got it back. Yeah, I did.
For now.
Good morning, Gowdy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Honestly, it was very strange with an episode being filmed and not being here, and I was like sort of anxious the whole day. I guess I really do love doing the show. Today we have NSS Canada on. They're at the forefront of distributing mining technology, specifically underground. And we're talking about, make sure I get these brands right, Hexagon, Leica. They've got their own in-house software, I believe. I'll let the guest confirm that, called Moss. So we are featuring Mathew Brown. He's a business development manager for NSS Canada. Lots to cover, but of course, Gowdy, before we do that, the people that make the show possible, or the companies, I should say,
Yeah.
we've got a few sponsors, so bear with us and take it away, Gowdy.
Yes, I will do my best. So first up, we have the Bucket Shop. The Bucket Shop provides wear solutions for all mining bucket applications that extend life cycles of 3 to 4 times. They help clients improve productivity and reduce operating costs by providing innovative options, including their 5-piece cast lip system, cast heel shrouds, and mechanical 2 and 5-piece buckets with optional disposable front ends. Beyond buckets, they provide truck box assemblies and liners, custom builds, undercarriage systems, ground engaging tools, and abrasive blasting and painting. Begin your savings today and visit thebucketshop.ca. Next up, we also have a Fenner Dunlop. Hardworking people need hardworking conveyor belts to get the job done. Fenner Dunlop not only manufactures the toughest and longest lasting conveyor belts in the world, but manufactures all of their conveyor belting products in their own North American facilities. This ensures the integrity of Fenner Dunlop conveyor belting and allows them to monitor each step of the production process. Fender Dunlop conveyor belts are engineered to withstand the harshest conditions and heaviest loads from the bulk, coal, heavy metal, and precious metal mining industries. With over 150 years under their belt, their globally recognized expert sales, services, and technical teams are available to ensure your belts last a lifetime. For more information, you can visit them at fenderdunlopamericas.com or call 1-800-661-2358. That's 1-800-661-2358. You can also watch for Fender Dunlop's upcoming episode on Mining Now.
Yeah.
Next up, we also have Savanaugh Equipment. Savanaugh Equipment supplies new and used mining equipment around the world, from placer to underground to ore processing plants. They have gold concentrating tables, trommels, and mineral jigs in stock now to take advantage of the high gold prices. You can visit them at savanaghequipment.com, where you will find more equipment every day. We also have Pit Blast. Pit Blast is a proud sponsor of the Crownsman Show. They help customers optimize drill and blast operations as well as solve efficiency issues with their outstanding solutions. Pit Blast offers a platform that includes a top shelf software, its own designated app, and a website, a probe for borehole deviation measurements, and a full department specialized in technical services such as underwater blasting. You can learn more at opitblast.com. That's opitblast.com. And of course, we also have Innoventa. Innoventa Group of Companies is presenting a panel on May 19th from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. The topic is out of the box thinking, how IoT technologies enable mine transformations for future proof operations. Abstract, mining is undergoing a shift towards Industry 4.0 and is experiencing new challenges and benefits. As this shift occurs, mines are finding new opportunities to improve production, safety, and cost savings. Technological change is here, and early implementation has risks, but waiting has the greater risk of leaving you at a competitive disadvantage. Join them to discuss and prepare for the impacts and benefits of Industry 4.0. Their session will give insight into the opportunities currently available and what is next from top innovation companies in the mining industry. This is free It is virtual, and panelists include Trang Tran Valad of Forte, Glenn Daganes of Bestech, and Ron Bose of XPS. The moderator is Dawn Duval of NORCAT. For more information, you can check out their social media LinkedIn page. You can also register on the Eventbrite link, which is on their LinkedIn page, or you can reach out to Alyssa_Sabarine at innovinta.com. And last but not least, CIM. Don't forget to register. CIM 2021 Convention and Expo is coming this May 3rd to 6th. It is a virtual event. You can get insight from industry leaders like Anglo American's Mark Kutufani, Caterpillar's Denise Johnson, Torex Gold's Jody Kuzenko, and many more. Explore mining operations through virtual site tours. You can also find the solutions and the expertise you need with technical talks, Q&A sessions, and of course the CIM Expo, Canada's mining marketplace. Again, that is May 3rd to 6th, and you can register today by visiting cim.org. There we go.
Okay. I don't think I'm going to do the Mining for Miracles plug that CIM donated the booth to. I'm going to do that very quick. Check out miningformiracles.ca and see what they're doing to support the mining industry. I'm glad to be a part of it myself, and so many companies supporting it. It's amazing. Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Gowdy. And thank you, Mathew Brown, for coming on the show. It's good to have you. As you can see, you're a very popular episode to sponsor. So we're going to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Okay. I want to jump into NSS Canada, and usually off the show when I'm talking to people to prep it, I kind of want to have a sense of sort of if there's a theme of the interview. But I think in this case, I'll ask this on camera. What do you sort of want people? What is the goal when you meet people and you walk away from them, if you only have 30 seconds, their perception of NSS Canada? What is your goal when you're talking to them?
So I think what Galdi was saying at the start, the industry is moving to 4.0. Data is becoming more and more important, and the mining industry moving away from just manual labor. And getting more people aware of that transition and being prepared for that transition is one of the main points we make at NSS, to make people aware of the technology, because the change is inevitable. It will happen eventually. It's just, do you want to be ahead of the curve or behind it? And how can you best do that change management? And that's where I think NSS really prides itself.
Do you find yourself educating customers a lot? Are people quite up to date now, or even some of your current customers? Is there a lot of information that they're needing?
Oh, there's a lot of information they're needing. It's the industry, because we're so interconnected lately. Most companies are pushing new products out or new innovation out weekly, monthly, and sometimes it can be overwhelming for people, even people who are just casually looking at the industry and the changes, to really follow what's happening and see how that can be applied. So there's definitely a lot of teaching moments and collaboration, seeing what best fits certain parts of the industry.
Are they asking you, or are you finding ways to always be communicating? I mean, we're going to talk about some of your major clients, which is really neat. You can actually name them, talk about what you're doing for them, because not every guest can with NDAs and that. So it's very exciting. Are you continuously reaching out to them, or do you have a pretty steady stream of questions coming back at you?
It's a give and take. It's everybody in industry is more excited to learn about where the industry is going, and there's a lot more engagement through the entire hierarchy at the mines at any level, from the miners at the face to the engineers and the geologists, the technical staff. Everybody's very excited to see where the industry is going to go and how that's going to affect them personally. So there's a lot of back and forth. There's some things that we get clients coming up to us and saying, "Hey, have you seen this?" There's a lot of interesting technology coming out of South America that we get shown. And trying to pivot that to the Canadian market is an interesting challenge.
What I was thinking when you were saying about, that communication coming both ways, I probably have my timelines. I'm terrible when it comes to timeline. But I want to say it was 10 years ago. For all I know, it could have been 20. But companies started to see on LinkedIn, people popping up, chief technology officer. It really started mining companies knew it would need to be a focus. To your memory, was there a shift? Was there a definite shift when those types of positions came and companies actually had entire units focused on the technology side?
No, I think your timeline is actually pretty accurate. I know when I was leaving school back in the early 2010s, there was definitely a big culture shift and a big innovation shift within the industry. And that's where, again, you see these people coming on as CTOs. They have innovation teams, they have business development teams that actively seek out these new technologies and figure out how we apply them. And instead of just letting that technology kind of pass by.
Mhm. Let's jump into some of the products that you're actually distributing. I mean, Hexagon is obviously that's one of the big players in the industry. Can you just sort of map out, and then we'll sort of dive into some of the specifics. But what is NSS Canada? Who are they distributing for?
So NSS Canada, we try and provide ourselves as a nexus of different technology innovations that are happening worldwide. We're not just partners with Hexagon, we partner with anybody that really has a very interesting product or an interesting solution to a problem in the industry. So a lot of the stuff that we try and bring to the market is autonomous drones, stuff like eye infrared cameras underground or on surface to track drowsiness and fatigue levels in operators, algorithms to plan data planning for fleet management or any kind of task management. As I said, the industry is moving to collecting the data. Now the big challenge is to be able to use that data and not
Yeah.
just putting it in a file folder somewhere in a computer that nobody ever looks at.
Something I've asked it on the show to several different guests. Now, some people they have developed, they have like three prime products, and that can be put into a database. How do you approach when you're distributing for multiple brands? Making sense of that data, or do most companies just need separate things? Are they okay with that data being separate? I just mean the data points, collecting it. It's obviously, it's come up many times on the show that it's now a challenge. How do you approach it as a company?
You're right. Before, everybody used to be separate. All the data was in their own little silos. The data the geologists collected was never seen by the engineers because it was two different programs. A lot of the software coming out these days and a lot of the technology solutions pride themselves on being technology agnostic. They realize that most mine sites or most operations are using bits and pieces of whatever fills the job the best, and being able to have open communication between the software or hardware, it just makes sense. And the industry, I found, for a lot of the OEMs, have been fairly cooperative with other solution providers to ensure that, if these solutions do get implemented, if a certain trucking company sells a truck, everybody needs to be able to talk to it. All the software needs to talk. It just makes better business sense, and it helps really drive that innovation since there's more collaborative approach.
It must make it a lot easier, like a company like Hexagon, who has. I mean, I was spending time on their website this morning, and I mean, they just. And I was actually a little bit. It was neat to look at, but I was also a little bit confused because I saw they had all these different streams. Like for example, they've got uh, mine operate, mine protect, mine enterprise, mine plan, mine monitoring. Now, do all those systems, can they be integrated together, or even within their own company? Are they on separate, are they separate data platforms?
They used to be, back in the day when they all existed as separate silos before Hexagon acquired them, absolutely. But they're designed nowadays so that Hexagon's main advantage they like to promote is if they provide a service, it's from the start of the mine to the end of the mine. So they're hoping that by
Yeah.
diversifying and having different product portfolios that can all talk to each other, they can cover that entire gambit. And you're seeing a lot of companies move forward with this, where the interconnectivity and the communication between the products they sell is key, because as you were saying, people don't want to manage 15 different sets of data from 15 different sets of software.
Right. What was I going to ask? I was listening to the question, thinking about what I was seeing on the website, and lost my train of thought.
Mhm.
The So yeah, where do you now? I know you're, and again, we're going to talk a little bit more about Leica. We're going to talk about Moss, which is your internal platform. But where do you sort of, if somebody is coming to you, where is NSS known to really stand out? Is it in the underground? I mean, I know you've got other offerings, but is underground sort of your bread and butter as a company?
Oh, absolutely. Between everybody that works for NSS, we probably have about 150 years of combined underground experience, myself included, for when I was a bit younger. But we definitely pride ourselves on being the technology provider for underground. We're lucky being based in Sudbury. Sudbury is a very old underground mining camp. So the experience and just being able to have those mines locally means that we can get that real-time information, we can do the trials, and we can really prove that the technology that's coming out can succeed in that environment.
So what are you offering underground mining then, on a let's call it a typical job, or typical supply chain? What would you be delivering to the customers, services and product?
Yeah, so honestly, it depends what the customer needs. It's we're at the stage where if the customer requires contractors to come and do certain tasks underground because they don't have the manpower or there's a change plan in place, we can bring people in to do those jobs. When it comes to the software, as you were mentioning, our MOS system is designed to really reduce the amount of people needed for certain jobs as we move to automation and technology. And then another example is with the Hexagon front or the Leica front, it's hardware and software that ties into a larger operation, whether that's fleet management or tracking the ore. A lot of the mines these days are getting deeper and deeper, so putting personnel in those are becoming more dangerous, and mines are moving towards being more safety conscious every day. So a lot of the technology that we provide is mitigation from putting people in danger.
So what would be an example of that? Like, could you just sort of paint a picture of, let's actually focus on Moss because that is your internal, and I know it sort of integrates like the Leica systems and that. So for a mine that's going deeper and deeper, they need to minimize manpower and move to more autonomous. What are you selling them?
So with Moss, I'll just give a brief background in how it used to be done before for the viewers. So back in the day, I say back in the day, back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, doing the daily advancement underground normally required a crew of anywhere between 5 and 10 people, just because of technology at the time and there were so many tasks and a lot of it was manual. As we've moved forwards technology wise and innovation wise, that has cut down to a certain point. So Moss's main focus is to remove everybody but the one miner from that area so that that one miner can do all the jobs needed on his daily drill and blast cycle without putting anyone else in his way, without exposing anybody else to that risk. And one of the interesting things about Moss is because it's in our own company and we can control the product development, we're moving towards fully autonomous markups and fully autonomous interactions with the equipment underground, because that's the way the mining companies are going, where they're just removing the human element completely from that deep mining. So it's a really interesting thing to see the product move from being a helping tool to almost being fully autonomous, and really providing the advantage there, removing people and equipment from the area.
How much does that technology advance? I mean, Moss, because it's, I guess we should share with the abbreviation, Miner Operated Survey System. So it's a very fitting name for what you just described. How how much is it advanced in, let's say, the last 3 to 4 years?
Quite substantially, actually. One of the big things we our partnership with Leica is we get access to a lot of their cutting edge technology. LiDAR being Leica being geomatics. They're really focusing on laser based systems and LiDAR based systems, and we're really well situated to take advantage of that technology. So in the older days, 4 or 5 years ago, we'd use a Leica total station, which uses one laser to precisely identify certain points in the mine. We're moving towards a system that can do an entire 360-degree scan in about 5 seconds, 10 seconds, depending on how long you need it to be and how accurate you need it to be. So the entire workflow goes from being 10, 15 minutes to a 5-minute job with an equipment that's a quarter of the size. And we see that technology just getting more miniaturized, getting more compartmentalized in the future. It's going to be a very interesting time to see how far they can push it.
So how hard is it to then internally as a company then to adapt? As their technology advances, does it make it easier to advance your technology? Or do you run into, I mean, I don't know if you're a technical, I don't know if you're actually designing software in that. So I won't take you too deep into the water if you don't want. But for the development, does it get technically challenging as companies like I think Hexagon bought Leica, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
so they're now they're kind of part and parcel to each other. As you're advancing, does it make it easier or more challenging?
It honestly depends on the part of the process you're in. Some of it for playing catch up, absolutely. There's a bit of a challenge there just because you have to get used to the new technology advancements and really try and get access from the developers at Leica, for example. We're lucky that we have a very good relationship with Leica. So anytime there's a new technology push, we get all the software development kits, we get trial versions of the hardware so that we can play around with it on our end. It also helps that a lot of the mining companies understand that this technology is getting pushed and they see where it could potentially take them. So there's a lot of external pressure for us to bring that standard up and really to continue to innovate.
What would you, if you were to say, and I know this is a bit of a tricky question because you sell a lot of products and services, but if you were to say out of the brands, like Hexagon, what is sort of the most, I know this is not the right way to ask this question, but the most popular? Like every second customer, there's going to have other stuff, but they're going to buy this product if they're dealing with you. Do you have a product like that? I know, there's like the controllers and the multi-stations and all these products that are produced that you sell. Is there a key one or a couple ones?
Oh, absolutely. There's key ones. We find that nearly every underground mine, if I can say that, in Ontario has been interested in our MOS system at one point since they see it. That internally is our biggest seller. The Leica stuff, I think almost nearly every underground mine in Canada uses Leica gear, so that's always in demand. The only downside is Leica is pretty reliable gear-wise, so we don't see much replacement selling. So
Uh,
we give and take there. And the Hexagon stuff, Hexagon is absolutely massive when it comes to technology and innovation, even outside the mining realm. But their specialty for Hexagon Mining is the open pit area, which we don't see a lot of business in because that's just outside our wheelhouse. But they definitely do very well in the open pit worldwide. And that's what we're hoping to see with our partnership, that we can push some of our internal MOS stuff to the underground markets in different regions.
What do you see when in a company like Leica, and it's a very well respected brand and company now part of Hexagon. What do they do differently that makes theirs so tough? And I know these are very simple questions, but I think they matter to a lot of viewers. What do they do differently than the other manufacturer?
It's just the quality. There's the Leica is again an extremely well known brand. Their stuff lasts forever as much as we don't like it to. I've seen it handle miners. It can go underground. I've seen guys drop out of scoops, drop it down shafts. It's reliable equipment. They have the years of expertise behind them, and they try their best to stay ahead of the technology curve. So there's always new innovations. There's new pushes. Again, the whole 3D space with the lidar. That's something that I did a study on years and years ago, and I didn't think it would ever take off. And just seeing how far the technology's come and how they're continually pushing the boundaries it's interesting to see, because as far as I know, Leica is one of the only major ones in the industry that's making that push.
Well, sorry, what was the technology?
The lidar technology, just in general, it's Leica, I should say as well. They're not just in the underground mining space, right? They do architecture, they do civil engineering,
Right.
so they have a lot of areas that they can diversify and pull new innovation, new technology from. So it's just being able to have them have that diverse range of industries that they're in to pull that technology from and that innovation from. If civil engineering needs a task, they can easily transition it to mining.
What is LiGAR though? I don't
Oh, LiDAR, it's
LiDAR.
I forget the acronym. It's basically a laser scanner that does distance georeferencing. It's instead of just being one laser, it's a constantly activated system so that you're getting a full real-time image of wherever it's scanning right away.
Wow.
Uh, yeah, and before, again, 10 years ago, it was very new technology. I did a technical report on it when I was in college. And I, as a geologist back then, I didn't think it would ever get off the ground, but most mines are using it now and using it very well. And it's cheap. It used to be very expensive. Now it's not that expensive.
This is very interesting. So when you did that research, did you what were the inhibitors that you thought, this is not a technology that's going to become mainstream in the mining world?
Just the size and the transportation. Originally, it was a fairly large unit. You'd have to vehicle mount it. Back in the day, it required a lot of power as well, so it'd have to be permanently attached to a vehicle. And in the underground environment, there's only so many areas a vehicle can go. A
Right.
lot of places you're still required to walk or climb or go through areas. And now we have one in the office. It's about the size of a coffee cup, and it has all the same functionality. It's got a battery, it charges, and it comes with a tablet. And again, that's another thing is the tablets. 10 years ago, tablets just weren't at that stage. Now I have tablets that are more powerful than my laptop.
It's
So you
not.
can,
They're
yeah.
not. I just want to get that out there. What those things are doing. Like I used to buy like you I mean, I'm starting to sound old here, but I would, like even 5 years ago, you'd buy one. It was like, it was okay. Now you buy one. Yeah, it's as powerful as some of the computers we're editing on. It's just nuts.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, and that must be mainstay now with all these products, like all the monitoring systems. Can that all be run through these tablets now? Is there really any data points in that can't be connected to a tablet?
No, as I said, all most of the stuff we sell nowadays all runs through the tablet, even the phones. Some of the mines are moving forward. We having their supervisors have phones underground because they have the infrastructure in mines. Just to go back in the technology point, years ago it was all leaky feeder on radio, and everybody had the big handheld walkie
Yeah,
talkies. Now they all have Wi-Fi, they all have LTE underground, so people are using their cell phones to communicate back and forth with different parts of the mine. So these tablets can do it, phones can now do it, and as you said, it's ridiculous. Like the technology advantage and the innovation there on that side just allows so much of our technology to piggyback on it.
yeah. Do you like? Is it? And I know it's kind of circling back, but these technologies now, I mean, uh, you have to keep people up to date. So you must have to. I mean, is it every year now it's advancing? Like how quick? I know you kind of touched on it already, but how quick is it going? And what do you do? Like, and I want to jump in. I want to dovetail this into some of your clients. Like you've got clients like Vale and Glencore. I mean, these are major mining operators. I mean, do they have technology people that are just always scanning, or do you just have to go, "Hey, we just got this yesterday." I mean, it's kind of like a sales call, but you're kind of required to update them on what's going on. So how do you sort of approach that?
So one of the nice things about big companies like that, as you said, the shift to having technology teams and CTOs is that clients and companies, especially the major ones like Valley and Glencore, are doing their own research. So they're actively looking for what they can apply technology wise. And we've had some of them just come to us, which makes my job title redundant since, they don't need the business development managers to go develop the business. They come to ask us, hey, we need this product.
Yeah.
But absolutely, that's what it is. A lot of the stuff we try and limit it to updates once or twice a year because some people get overwhelmed,
Mm.
and sometimes there's just fatigue. So saying that, yes, absolutely, there's new technology coming out at like record-breaking speed, and it's a job for us as a technology solution provider to try and pick the best ones that have that strong background to really present them. Because it doesn't go well if there's a startup and it comes out and it does this amazing thing, but they fizzle out.
Yeah.
So it really it's trying to make sure that while the innovation's there, they also have that backing and that the
Right.
resources to support it.
Yeah. Let's jump over to a company like Vale. I mean, for one, congratulations for being able to work with a company like that. That's a major operator. But where paint a picture. What are you selling? Is it everything that you're selling to Vale, or do they have like a very specific things that they need your services for?
So I can hyper specialize, but yeah, we've been lucky that we Sudbury being one of Valley's main operations, and that's the difference. We say Valley as opposed to the Vale that most other people say.
Yeah.
We're lucky that they have, I believe, 5 or 6 mines. I think it's 5 right now, operating mines in the Sudbury camp, and they employ a large percentage of the workforce. And because they're such a well ingrained company, like we used to have this company called Inco, which then became Valley. Sorry,
I'm messing with
the
you
past
by
couple of
saying it
years. And
wrong. Sorry.
yeah. So, but it's yeah. So as I said, we used to deal a lot with Inco. I worked for Inco way back in the day when it was still in the transition period. I worked for Valley when it was properly Valley. But it's just having them locally. It's any kind of service they need when it comes to contractors doing survey work if they don't have enough men. We do provide them with Moss. Moss has been successful at the Valley mines because they see the advantage of it. Valley is doing a big push to advanced technology wise. They've released some press releases on they call it the IROC Center, which stands for the Integrated Remote Operations Center. So they can really centralize all their operations in Canada. So something like that, since it covers 7 or 8 mines on a country level, really needs the technology behind it to be able to support that both infrastructure wise and software and hardware wise. And that's where you see the majors really making those pushes because they identify a trouble point or a pain point that they have. So they go to technology partners and say, we want to solve this problem. How can we do it? Where can you help? And if you guys can't, who can?
Right, and that's more, but that's across the board. And I was actually going to ask about that. I was just talking to somebody about Walmart, and of course it makes sense. But I assume, Walmart would have each store would have some different service providers, but they don't. If you're the cleaning company for Walmart Canada, you
Mhm.
clean every store in Walmart Canada, every single one. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
Um, so in these companies, you're dealing directly with the mine, and now, but are you starting to see that there's more of a shift? A company like Valet saying, "Hey, if we use this system here and it works, we are then going to have it across the board where every possible place it can be." Or are they still piecing together different technologies per site?
No, honestly, and that's part of the shift lately we've seen with the culture, especially here in town. As most mining companies mature and the size gets larger, Valley, as you were saying, is an example. Back in the day, it all used to be done at a mine specific level or an operation specific level. As sites become more interconnected and the data from one mine can directly affect a different operation, they're required to interconnect. And that's where you see, as you said, the logistics chain of if you supply X for one, you supply X for all. It really comes into play. And I think it's just for simplification problem or simplification in general, for cutting down the logistics chain, the amount of people you need to contact, all the back end requirements, you see, you really make that transition easier.
So Matthew, with these companies like Valet, if they're looking at technology at a national level or international level, going back to that Walmart example, it's like, if you're a cleaning company, you get everything, huge win, millions of dollars. If you lose the contract, it's devastating. Um, so so for in NSS Canada's case, is it similar? As you see, there's this huge opportunity now as they look at more technology integration as a national and international level. So there's opportunity and risk. Is that accurate?
Oh, absolutely, and it's something that companies try their best to manage for the risk management. But even say where we are slightly different from the cleaning company only provides one key service, and that's cleaning. I can't mention the name, but I can give an example lately where we were declined on a request for bid because they saw our technology and they were just, well, we don't think it's a good fit. But because they saw some of the other products NSS sold and provided, we actually managed to provide them with another solution that was for a completely different project.
Uh,
But it's just having the ability to diversify and have all these different solutions that really helps the mining industry. So, well, there's a risk in that, hey, if one product doesn't successfully take off, we do have stuff that we can also provide that will fit certain niches and certain problems.
and do you think, because of your position, that business development, and then even going up the command chain in your company, was that do you think that was part of the process of realizing as technologies become more nationally distributed or internationally distributed, that you have to diversify your product line so that you can always slot in somewhere?
Absolutely. And I think being from the mining background and NSS being a mining company, we see that as a bigger risk than most companies. The mining industry is very cylindrical, where there's ups and downs, booms and busts, depending on commodity prices or what's happening worldwide. So there's always the threat of looming layoffs when certain prices get too low. So being in the industry as long as we have, we've been through about two or three of these cycles already. So we understand that yes, like to survive and to continue for that next upswing, diversification is key. Like
Yeah.
whether that's in mining for different commodities, so you can always have a target market, or lately we're expanding out to other services such as architecture or civil engineering, just so there's always something happening to keep us busy and keep us afloat.
Mm. Yeah. And now I want to jump over to Glencore, doing work for them. Again, I think they're one of they're one of the largest globally diversified companies. I mean, how they say it, I don't want to be sharing out inaccuracies here, but I mean, they've got 135,000 employees across the world. So I guess in your case, if they go national with one of your technologies, that's probably a good thing.
Mhm.
But where again, the same thing as Valet. Where do you come in with them for the product line? I think you have Moss is integrated into their system as well. But the other question I had, when you're dealing with companies of that scale, do most of them, is it about getting one? Or is the company, I mean, the company, I think NSS Canada has been around since 1989, so it's been around a while, so it's well known. But does it still carry that weight, especially in your region, that, oh, Valet has this? So, okay, okay, it bypasses that sort of will it work part of the sale.
Mm. No, there's definitely some trepidation on will it work, but it's as part of it as well with Glencore being diversified. That ties into the previous question you had, where even major mining companies see the need for diversification, and Glencore is a great example. But in the Sudbury camp, Glencore has been a partner in the sense of using NSS's technology since almost NSS started.
Oh, really?
Moss actually started from a Glencore engineer back in the mid to late 80s who realized there was a niche for this. So that was his bread and butter. And then as he got closer to retirement age, we snapped them up.
Mm.
Uh, so in there, Glencore is a huge partner for us with Moss. We provide services. And as you said, as these companies get bigger, Glencore has 2 operations in Sudbury currently for active mines. They have an active mine in northern Quebec that we're currently working with as well. And it's exactly as you said. They try it here at the local level, and then they pivot that technology where they see it being used to their other operations, whether that's Canada, New Caledonia, or in Australia, the other mines they have there.
So this actually brings me to another important thing, I think, for any distributor, Matthew, is when you're working with a company like or an operator like a Glencore, who's got 3 mines in close proximity to you, and then of course they're dealing directly with you, so you're getting feedback from them, their thoughts, their ideas, their requirements, and then being the in between for a Hexagon or a Leica. Are you able to then take that information and pass it up the food chain and to build for their development, or are they so heavy on it that they've already identified the same issues that maybe a Glencore has identified?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's stuff with that, being a technology provider and being in the industry is you need to also be part consultant, where, as I would say, we have weekly meetings with Glencore for some of the trials we're doing currently, where they do give us feedback because as much as Hexagon is a large company, they only have so many personnel and so many
Yeah.
different scenarios that they can test their hardware and software in. So being able to get feedback for site, you can get really good field examples of where the software is winning or failing, where the hardware is winning or failing, or just scenarios you never thought would be possible happen at these sites that don't happen in the lab. A brief example is one of the systems we sell is a fatigue management system, and it detects the operator's eyes for drowsiness or face, and it really designed to track them for distraction as well. And one of the sites, whose name I can't release, has this system of about 400 units installed. And the engineers noticed at the site, a specific part of the mine, all the operators would look hard to the left. So they were like, maybe it's a distraction issue that we need to communicate back to the mine because it's a chronic problem. And it turned out that's just where the truck lineup was. So the operators were looking to see who else was on their shift, so they could see their buddies, or they'll be like, oh
Right.
yeah, he's getting his social. But it's just interesting feedback like that we can only test for so often.
Mm.
But once you get 400 people looking left, you're like, well, is that a problem, or is that something we have to build into the system? So
Right.
just feedback like that's just fantastic. Like we got a lot. The mines hire a lot of smart people. A lot of the engineers, the geologists, anybody at the operations level, they're hired because they're intelligent and they're hired because they're good at their job. And the feedback they give back is always taken and implemented because it's not just noise, it's not just fluff, it's actual real world examples. So being able to pass that up the chain is fantastic for Hexagon, fantastic for Leica, because sometimes they don't have the resources to engage with every mine site or engage with these people at that level.
Yeah, no, and I've heard very similar stuff. Like when you've seen, interviews about like Tesla developing autonomous vehicles, and just some of the funny things that they just went, oh, we didn't even think of that. They just can't until it gets out on the road. You just don't. I can't even think of the example. There was one that was very funny, but
Was it the line of salt on the ground?
yeah,
Is
it
this
was
it?
something like that. It was like a break in the lines or something, but it was probably, yeah, like salt. I mean,
Yeah,
exactly. Providing data points that aren't necessarily accurate.
yeah.
Um, so now, what is your background before this position?
So I've done a lot of things. I like to joke I wear a lot of hats at work, but I've worn a lot of hats in just my general life. So when I emigrated to Canada back in the early 2000s from Scotland, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I went to college. I just literally went down the list, saw mining engineering technician for one of the or colleges in Sudbury. And I was like, I'll try that. What's the worst it can do? I'll do 2 years and see where my life goes.
Right.
That led to me graduating from that class, working for Vale and Glencore, seeing the mining industry firsthand. And then I realized that I like rocks. Rocks are very interesting to me. So I went to school to be a geologist, graduated there, worked in the industry for a couple of years. And then I transitioned to sales because from what I've learned, geology and being able to sell your crazy ideas about what the rocks do translates very well to selling crazy ideas of what your technology can do.
It can. So yeah, so then how much does that help then? I mean, you've worked for these companies, you've been in the industry. I won't pretend there's not a little bit of jealousy. I can't just go down a list and go, oh, I want to be a mining engineer. I don't quite have those chops, but so good on you. But how much value has that given you? Let's say let's go really extreme. You'd come from car sales, and now you're doing this. I mean, where's the how much depth does it give you when talking to your customers on and the actual operators and also your suppliers as well?
Mhm. I find it's quite invaluable being able to talk the talk, as it were, from being in the trenches underground. It goes a long way because you can give concrete examples. Miners and operators and engineers and people that work in the mine site have a really good ability to detect when people are talking themselves up a bit and they haven't really done something.
Yeah.
So being able to come in and have that mutual experience of being underground or having these problems and being able to give examples to people where they can see that technology be implemented really helps. I think humans are adapted to really appreciate stories and tales where helping visualize what can happen and what can be possible and being able to give examples of underground where, oh, I've seen this back in my day,
Yeah.
I think this can solve it, really helps cement them visualize where this solution can help them.
And just the terminology, right? Some of the terms that people kind of throw out that just become kind of industry standard, even if they're not technically accurate. Just kind of knowing that lingo can make a huge difference.
Oh, absolutely, but I don't get to use a lot of that in the sales calls because most
Right.
isn't designed for polite company.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Um, you said you went down a list. So when you came over from Scotland, had you had any interest in mining? Had you been involved? I don't really know what the economy of mining is in Scotland. Or was it literally just going down a list?
No, so it's an interesting story. So Scotland only just opened their first brand new mine in about 300 years in the last 2, 3 years.
Really?
But when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time with my grandmother, and she liked to collect jewelry. So when I was a wee boy, she would point all the different gemstones and be like, "This is what this stone is. This is an emerald. This is a sapphire." And as typical grandmother, she's like, "One day you'll go find me some." So I've
Right.
always had a passion to go. I've never worked in a gemstone mine, but yeah, I've managed to bring her some cool samples. But that really pushed me to look at the rocks, and it was a fascination that turned into a career that I'm really happy worked out.
I gotta ask, like my grandparents were when I was very young, were gone. So how, so did she still live in Scotland?
Yes.
So it must be kind of a treat then for you to go back and she, knowing that backstory for you to then bring some of these little treasures back. This must be kind of a neat experience.
Last time I went over, I got a note in my baggage from the customs agent just asking why I had rocks, but they were all samples I collected. And then my grandmother, being the lovely lady that she is, saw them, took one look at them, goes, "Okay, cool," and then put them on a shelf, and that was the last of it. So
She didn't realize they weren't a gift.
no, well, no, she realized they were a gift, but she didn't. There was no rubies, there was no emeralds, there was no diamonds. So in her mind, oh, he can do better.
Right. Yeah. Is it yeah, for when you came over here, was that did you like it from the beginning? Like when you started, the mine engineer, and then was that did you sort of take to it like a fish into water, or did it take a while to sort of? I mean, I've talked to you enough. You like the mining industry, so was that an instant thing, or did that over time you sort of developed a love for it?
No, I would say it was pretty instant. I've always been really practical or really hands-on when I was growing up. I like to get my hands dirty. So the office job is a bit of a change.
Mm.
But with mining, the first mine I ever worked at went underground was considered a cowboy mine where it was still somewhat dated in policy. So I learned a lot. I got my hands dirty. I was able to get really involved with my job, and I think that just cemented it because being able to touch things and be practical really helped me be like, this is what I want to do for work. This is where I want to go career-wise.
And was that a job that you could, I mean, did they encourage that? Because it was sort of everybody kind of has their own job. You just kind of grab the handles. Was it that type of environment?
Yeah, it was one of those. It was when I started, same with the college degree. I was a technician, so I was told anything that needs to be done, you're basically a labor. So go help where you can help. So I was able to get a lot of early experience, basically just being a kid playing around with tools, seeing the drills in the field, going underground. It was one of those things where I got exposed to the entire industry very early instead of just being pigeonholed, and I think that really helped me being able to diversify myself.
And now you're you're help distributing the leading edge technology. So it's a full,
Yeah, it's a full
full
circle.
thing.
It's a fairy tale
Yeah.
story that way.
The next step for NSS Canada is, I mean, we've been in this crazy, 2020 was absolutely crazy, and then it just sort of spilled into 2021. I guess after New Year's Day isn't the magic solution that everybody kind of hoped. Um, so what is a company like NSS Canada? You talked about the diversity, and I think that was probably the focal point. And is that really the key going forward, as the world, I think, if nothing else, and I won't compare this to World War II. That's certainly not what I'm doing, because that was a whole different level. But I think one thing it's done is it's really given our generation, at very least the Western world, an idea of how quickly the world can change, completely change what you know as a reality. Um, so is that diversity? Is that the key going forward for a company like NSS Canada to be able to survive and thrive in this sort of ever changing world that we now live in?
I don't think it's just diversity. Diversity certainly helps, making sure there's always something to be done. I think the biggest thing is part of us being a technology company is being able to adapt. As you were saying, the world learned overnight how fastly they could change. Some companies learned they could do the same. Some companies learned they couldn't. I think the big thing with NSS, with us being a technology provider, we pivoted to being entirely digital pretty quick.
Yeah,
Most of the mines did as well. And most of the services we provide, some of them do require boots on the ground with people going underground.
yeah.
Most of them can be done remote, all the meetings, all the fluff. And I think just being able to pivot to still providing that service and that level of knowledge or expertise virtually or digitally is one of the big things that saved us. And moving forward with that, uh, just technology wise for what we're doing with the industry to remove people, again, as you were saying, like with access being restricted and now the new normal happening, it's being able to really remove people from areas where they don't need to be, or reducing work crews because the workflows get better is where the industry is going to go, and this is just a push for it. So if we can stay ahead of it, I think we'll be pretty good.
Did you see an uptick right when everything started shutting down and that? I mean, your technology, I mean, especially collecting data points and minimizing manpower and that, you must have seen an uptick pretty quickly after things started to change. Things started to change so rapidly.
We didn't see an uptick per se. What we did see was people trying to really get the best bang for their buck
Oh,
out of the technology they already have in place. I was still working in the mines when everything started.
oh,
So I saw a lot of the
right.
budgets and a lot of the new technology solutions be put on hold for people to implement new safety policies and new safety procedures. So most of the mines were focused on how can we get the most advantageous data from what we have already. But now, as things start to normalize or change, now those mines are really investing. So we're seeing the uptick now, where mines are really interested in technology and how they can better future-proof themselves and prepare for if something like this happens again.
It's a crappy time for the world. It is an exciting time for mining.
Mhm.
So it's pretty fun for us. Like I said, I'm back. I was off for a show, so Roy tried to take my job. But it's fun to be back, and it's always so fun to be able to do these types of interviews where it is the leading technology, and there's these major companies and operators you can talk about. It's what mining is all about. So Thank you, Mathew, for coming on the show. I know you're sponsoring some episodes as well. I hope we get you back on as the company continues to develop. You're at the forefront of some very exciting stuff.
No, thank you very much for having me. I'll be back anytime you want me.
All right, thank you. Okay, Gowdy.
Yes.
So I don't want to leave now. I feel if I get up.
Oh, I
So
thought
I
it was
came.
like you were drawing a blank, like your
No,
first
no,
time
no,
back.
no, no. I was trying to think of what. Well, I came back and there was even I've already had its glass still here on my show desk.
Next time he'll write his name all over.
Yeah, he
the
probably
set.
did somewhere under this drawer. That was great. I love some guests are very efficient with their information, and Mathew is one of those guests. So it was a fun interview for me to do.
Mhm.
Where can people follow, like, suggest guests, be sponsors? It's a pretty continuous stream we have going. So let's keep telling them where to go.
Yeah, absolutely. So first up, don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've got 2 episodes a week on there, and more coming soon. Excuse me. So yeah, again, you can also contact us if you'd like to be part of the show, whether it's Mining Now, Crownsman Energy, or the Crownsman Show. You can contact us info@crownsman.com. Yeah. And you can also suggest guests. It's not doesn't have to be just, you want to be part of it. But if you know someone that should be on as a
Yeah,
guest, or
don't be
you'd like to
selfish.
see
Selfish. Don't try to just get the spotlight for yourself. As I'm
share
one,
the spotlight.
I'm one to talk. Okay, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Mathew Brown and NSS Canada, for being part of the show. We love doing Mining Now. Please check out CIM. Check out Mining for Miracles. There's a lot of exciting stuff happening in the industry. We'll have links to NSS Canada. And there'll be plenty of tags. Go on LinkedIn and you will probably see them popping up in your feed. Thank you, everybody. See you on the next episode of Mining Now.